Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
As an apprentice, I earned 300 shilling a month, and I had to pay 100 shilling to provide for my parents so I could eat in 1997 when 2 babies were born. California, who were only 5 days apart, shared a father, but only one was expected. Arnold Schwarzenegger maintained this bombshell secret for 14 years while the boy grew larger, stronger, and began to appear just like the housekeeper who brought him to his house every day. Like him, no one spoke for 14 years until that therapy session went though. Family never really recovered from those 3 letters. Arnold acknowledged at last not in 1947. Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in a modest Austrian town in the wake of the war. His father, Gustav, was a severe, authoritarian man who served as the local police chief. Gurov had survived the atrocities of World War II and was buried alive in ruins for 3 days. But he carried that anguish home with him growing up. Arnold's family lived in constant worry that his father would force him and his older Minihard and his brother vie for love, including picking out flowers for their mother. Became a test. And as Gustav drank, the yelling and beatings became more intense. Arnold claimed that this act of brutality left broken men throughout Austria was commonplace, but Arnold didn't want to live in such world. I'd wanted to get away from everything and become someone he wasn't only dreaming about. Arnold, who was only 4 years old when he started working, had to work for his breakfast by completing 200 push-ups and sit-ups each day. His father ensured that there were no skipping days, rain or snow, and football followed. 10-page reports on training and homework, with each error highlighted in red. Gustav thought that pressure developed character, so they had to redo it 50 times because it was misspelled. Although his brother Minhard broke beneath it, Arnold did not. Minhard was compassionate, imaginative, and intelligent, but Arnold struggled to free Minhard, retreated inside. He drank excessively, and in 1971, at the age of 24, Minhard passed away in Iron Kitzbühel. Arnold, he struck a telephone pole while intoxicated, and Arnold was already. Many people didn't understand why he didn't attend the burial while pursuing his aspirations in America, but Arnold subsequently stated he was obviously shattered by the same thing that made me who I am. Their father also passed away a year after Minhard's passing, and Arnold bore the wounds. However, at the age of 14, something shifted, and Arnold refused to let them define him. Arnold was playing football as normal until his coach took the squad to a nearby gym at Thaler Sea Lake, where he became enamored with men doing weights and building pure muscle. Iron quickly took over his life when football ended, and by the age of 15, while most people were just doing 3 days a week of exercise, he read everybody. The age of 18, he had won every bodybuilder movie he could find. At the age of 20, Junior Mr. Europe became the youngest Mr. Universe ever. He hadn't just discovered a new sport that let him escape, but the narrative wasn't entirely inspirational. There was a secret in the background that Arnold couldn't overlook. His father, Gustav, had formerly joined the Nazi Party in 1938, but in 1941, he was merely a member of the SAS brown-shirted stormtroopers from Poland to Leningrad. He participated in bloody fights as a master sergeant in the Nazi military police. Arnold remained silent for years, until he questioned the Simon Wiesenthal Center in 1990. The initial reports on his father's background revealed no war crimes, although investigations subsequently demonstrated Gustav's complete involvement, which Arnold never contested. Instead, he made use of it by openly denouncing bigotry and violence against that. At the age of 19, Arnold was duplicating what he had observed in the broken men around him as a child. Made his first audacious decision, leaving Austria and traveling to Munich with nothing but after completing 9 months of required army service. He had a suitcase and a dream. Emerged from the train into a vast, cacophonous, and overpowering metropolis. This is going to be my new home, Arnold assured himself, and he moved into a 1 Franco Colombo, and several bodybuilders reside in a 1-room apartment on Christophstrasse due to financial difficulties. He occasionally slept in the gym storage room. Although he was at last in the right place. He was employed as a gym trainer at Schillerstrasse 36, made hardly enough money to get by, and the equipment was outdated, although there wasn't much room. Arnold found it ideal because it allowed him access, and he made no excuses and trained for 5 to 6 hours every day, 7 days a week, hammering the calves, thighs, arms, and weak areas for up to 60 sets each session. He slept for 10 hours every night, abstained from alcohol and tobacco, and maintained his discipline. His roommates trained together, had side jobs, and were bodybuilders, kept one another going, and the gym evolved beyond just a place to lift weights, became home. And in September 1967, at the age of 20, the breakthrough occurred. Arnold had previously attempted and failed to win Mr. Universe in London, but this time had defeated American favorite Dennis Tina. The victory sent shockwaves through the bodybuilding community. Arnold's physique, size, and stage presence were matched. He posed for a picture in the snow without a shirt when he returned to Munich. Shoot. He was more concerned with being seen than he was with the cold. In the end, it was just the start of Arnold's journey to become Mr. Universe 5 and Mr. Olympia 7 times. But the world had already begun to take notice of his. Some people kept to short, structured training methods, while others used severe and controversial tactics. Arnold trained his chest twice a day, 6 days a week, because he believed in overkill, and back in the morning, followed by legs, calves, and abs the next day, triceps, shoulders, and biceps in the morning, followed by additional calves and abs at night. Weight increased to 255 pounds in the off-season, 20 to 30 pounds greater than his competition weight. Experts said he would burn out, but he persisted because he thought you had to cause the muscles to grow. However, not all of the increase was organic, has acknowledged using drugs, primarily testosterone and dianabol, since he said that it was used in tiny amounts and under a doctor's supervision in his late teens. He explained at the time that he took 3 dianabols a day and 100 milligrams of testosterone per week. The atmosphere surrounding them was still extremely different, and steroids were not prohibited. He used more than he acknowledged, according to several former GMs, and he introduced Arnold never feigned perfection. But he was forthright about what in October 1968, he got off the plane carrying a hefty duffel bag, with only $20 in his pocket and an accent. Arnold Schwarzenegger was only 21 years old, speak English fluently. He was unfamiliar with the culture, but he knew what he wanted. Born in a small Austrian hamlet, he struggled to succeed in America following World War II, was up in poverty, surrounded by rules, and experienced harsh winters. By the time he was 20, he had America was the goal, but it wasn't enough. He had already become Mr. Universe. Dream that began at the age of 10. His early years were difficult, and he didn't. People who didn't understand menus or lingo made fun of him, but the bodybuilding community took him in, and strangers offered him blankets, dishes, and even a television. Joe Weider provided him with housing and just enough money to train full-time behind the largest bodybuilding competitions. Arnold never forgot that generosity, and he frequently claimed that he wasn't the only one who made it. 2 years later, at the age of 23, he became the youngest person to win Mr. Olympia, and he kept from 1970 to 1975. He defeated legends and won year after year, such as Lou Finho and Sergio Oliva. Even when Mr. Olympia attempted to divide the Arnold, startled everyone by winning the 1980 weight class battle. His first triumph only brought him $1,000, but he went on to capture his 6th title with a comeback victory. By 1980, the award had grown to $25,000. His contribution to the sport's growth just by being in. But Arnold used his intellect as well as his muscles to win. Inside the minds of his opponents prior to a major match. He sat with Lou Ferrigno at breakfast and informed him that he appeared nearly prepared, casting doubt on him just hours before Lou. Frost never left these things up to chance, and the show worked. He made jokes, spread stories, and caused rivals to question whether Arnold felt that while some just lifted weights, they were unable to cope with the strain and didn't deserve to win. He trained his 22-inch biceps as if they were works of art, and they became legendary. Arms many times a week with harsh, high-volume exercises. But he didn't marry for hours, concentrating intently and relating his thoughts to each motion. He even slightly twisted his wrist to reveal the biceps' outer head. Desired not just perfection in size, but also in shape and detail, and the cameras arrived in 1977 when Pumping Iron came out. It popularized bodybuilding and made Arnold a household name. But certain aspects of the movie, including the plot, were scripted. His not attending his father's burial, which was untrue. They even staged Arnold didn't mind that he acted in a feud between 2 other bodybuilders for drama. The antagonist, cunning Victor, leaned into it, which caused others to speak, and it succeeded. But Hollywood mocked him when he attempted to pursue a career in acting. They made fun of his name and detested his accent. One executive even called him Schnitzel. Was instructed to portray Nazi villains rather than heroes. Didn't fit the stereotype of leading males of the 1970s, who were quiet, intelligent, and little. Arnold was. Despite this, he went forward with his debut movie, Hercules, in New York. In it was embarrassing when they dubbed him Arnold Strong in 1970. His voice. The movie tanked for 5 years, and he remained patient despite not receiving any significant offers. Then, in 1976, everything changed when he was cast in the movie Stay Hungry. His charm showed when his accent worked, and he even took home a Golden Globe for he made his breakthrough acting debut in 1982. Starring in Conan the Barbarian, made $79 million. Globally on a $20 million budget, Arnold was a true movie star once his gamble paid off because of his stature, accent, and unusual screen presence turned into a strength rather than a problem. And suddenly 3 words appeared. Arnold played the lead in the Terminator, which made history. I'll Be Back in 1984, despite only costing $6.4 million to produce, the movie made $78 million. His quote, "I'll be back," he thought it sounded strange, but director James Cameron nearly cut it. Argued that the phrase got famous all of a sudden, and Arnold wasn't merely a celebrity, was a legend after that. And between 1985 and 1991, his hits continued to come in. Commando, the face of action films, earned $57 million, while Predator earned $98 million. Each of them contributed to the Running Man's expanding dominion, was influencing the genre in addition to acting. Yet he startled everyone once more. He collaborated with Danny DeVito on the comedy Twins in 1988. Two brothers who didn't look alike sounded insane, but the film made $216. Arnold DeVito and the director spent $15 million on a global budget, everyone for one salary in exchange for a share of the more than $35 million in earnings they made, demonstrated that Arnold could make people laugh in addition to blowing stuff up. And then came Total Recall in 1990 with a budget of $65 million. It was one of the priciest movies ever produced. With its groundbreaking VFX, the sci-fi movie made $261 million worldwide. That had never appeared this way before. And suddenly the actual Titanic Terminator arrived. The largest budget ever at the time, $12 million, was allocated to the 1991 film when it brought in over $517 million globally. The impact was revolutionary. With his $15 million, Arnold became the highest-paid actor in the world, transformed action films for all time and solidified Arnold's dominance. He was formally named the International Star of the Decade in 1993, but no one questioned it since he was no longer only an actor and BODYBUILDER, was a world-renowned figure who dominated the world in 1996. He was a well-known action hero who was married to Maria Schwarzenegger, a member of the influential Kennedy family and preparing for a political career. But behind closed-door doors he was leading a risky double life during Maria's pregnancy that year. Arnold quietly started an affair with Mildred Baena while they were expecting their fourth child, their longtime housekeeper. But the affair wasn't the only thing that caused the scandal. Maria gave birth to their son Christopher on September 27, 1997, and the timing was astounding. Mildred gave birth to Joseph, Arnold's hidden kid. Both ladies, 5 days later, were living under the same roof while pregnant. Mildred would even bring infant Joseph home. Nobody had any suspicions about anything on Joseph's. Mildred's husband, Rolio Baena, was named on her birth certificate as stepfather, but as Joseph grew older, it was difficult for him to look like Arnold. Ignoring the truth when it ultimately came to light didn't just end a marriage, it caused a family to fall apart, and Joseph lost contact with his half-siblings. And when it appeared that things couldn't get any worse, Mildred had to leave Bakersfield to avoid the mayhem when Arnold ran for governor of California in 2003. The Los Angeles Times said that 15 women had accused him of groping, sexually harassing or degrading people for more than 30 years. These weren't nebulous charges. One woman claimed he made obscene remarks while pulling her onto his lap. Another comment claimed that in an elevator, he had forced her to take off her swimwear. Others reported being groped on movie sets. This practice was called Gropegate by the media. Although despite the controversy, Arnold continued to run his campaign without faltering, declared the charges to be untrue. Yet he won the election with almost 49% of the vote in a Netflix documentary titled "Forget All the Excuses It Took." He came clean years later. Was incorrect. His off-screen actions merely fueled the flames. In 2003, in an interview with Esquire, he expressed things that even devoted followers found shocking. "You assume that a blonde with amazing tits and a fantastic ass must be," he continued by saying that occasionally they were intelligent. But the harm was completed. Angry demonstrators from women's rights organizations crowded the streets. Critics accused him of deeply rooted misogyny in addition to sexual impropriety. But his supporters said it was all a component of his macho persona. But the proof was mounting and it went beyond words. Carla Barron, a stand-in on the Twins set in 1988, told one of the most unsettling tales. Arnold and after smoking a cigar, Arnold pushed his cigar past the other man who had jammed her. She slapped her tongue into her mouth, describing it as an ashtray of human flesh. He apologized, but she knew she couldn't, and she warned him not to do it ever again. Him not in a field that shielded its celebrities, as her account supported be. Others on the set turned into one of the most egregious illustrations of Hollywood's culture of silence around influential men. Nevertheless, on October 7, 2003, Arnold achieved one of the most improbable triumphs in political history, won the recall election to become California's governor. Over 4.2 million for 3% of female voters cast ballots for him, which is an astounding percentage given the timing of the accusations. He even garnered support from 18% of Democrats, and Hispanic voters were breathtaking. And the election itself was bizarre, with campaign vans with names that in his films, such as Running Man and Total Recall, Arnold was in and Gray Davis was out. In California's history, he was only the second foreign-born governor. When Democrats opposed his budget in 2004, Arnold didn't back down. "They are girly males," he lamented in public. Repeating a Saturday line received applause from his base but rage from the audience. During the Nightlife parody, opponents accused it of being homophobic and sexist. State Senator Sheila Quayle criticized him of bringing politics into the public eye, while some called it outright homophobia. Arnold did not back down. His spokeswoman made it apparent that his macho would not be apologizing. He frequently employed his image as a political tool, But then came that despite his gruff man image, Arnold took an unexpected turn and started advocating for progressive. He put forth a $12 billion national healthcare plan in 2007 that sought to cover all 6.5 million Californians without health insurance, including those without documentation. He referred to it as a shared responsibility scheme for immigration, which required each person to employers had to contribute to the cost of insurance, insurers had to provide equitable plans, and conservatives were incensed that people received discounts for maintaining their health. While liberals were startlingly, he also took a strong stand against climate change in 2006. Supporting the global, California led the nation in reducing emissions thanks to the Warming Solutions Act, which won him. He received acclaim from environmental organizations and derision from the Republican base. Turn become a conservative political wildcard who promoted liberal policies. However, when he gained office, California had to pay a heavy price for his audacious promises. Everything changed for him and his wife Maria. When he was elected governor of California, Shriver attended a couples therapy session. But it was more than just a problem-solving exercise. It was, "And Maria wants to know if you did," the therapist replied, turning to Arnold, "have a child with Mildred, the housekeeper." Years later, Arnold froze. Of concealment and denial, he said, "It's true." The truth struck Joseph like a ton of bricks. The son Baina was born in 1997, 5 days after Maria gave birth. 4 years, Arnold had attempted to believe in their youngest son, Christopher, that Joseph resembled Arnold more and more every year. Even though Mildred's husband was the father, Maria had long suspected it and had previously challenged Mildred. Not only did the marriage end when the question was eventually asked in that room, but it also revealed a secret that had been laid to rest for 14 years, shattering a family that the public once regarded as royalty. Later, Arnold would use eerie language to describe the incident. "I told the truth," he claimed, "and it felt like my heart stopped. Maria didn't scream when she admitted, and I knew that everything would fall apart. Although she didn't cry. The harm was done immediately after she said, yes, Joseph is the treachery hurt much more after my son ended their 25-year marriage because of the timing. Joseph, Christopher Maria's youngest child, was born in October 1997. The affair occurred in 1996, 5 days before Arnold's birth, and Marianne shortly after. Arnold was filming Batman and Robin while the children were away. After making the admission, Maria packed everything and left, filing for divorce a few months later. Later, Arnold would remark, "I caused Maria and the children great suffering, for Joseph was a complete failure for his mother and everyone else. Not only in their marriage, but at the age of 13, Joseph discovered the truth not from his father, but from Thine." 2011 news van set up camp outside his house, and the headlines went viral. Cameras in Bakersfield waited to see the boy who had just turned into with the help of foreign tabloids. His mother Mildred pulled him from school. He was barely in the 8th grade when he was told, "We have to leave. Everyone knows now." The world now knew something about the teenager who was still figuring out who he was. They fled to Texas to get away from the chaos, but he hadn't even fully understood himself. It all changed overnight. Joseph would later remark, "My body was changing, my mind was shifting, and despite Arnold and Joseph, my existence had suddenly turned upside down." Would eventually develop a strong bond through training and fitness in those early days. Maria, on the other hand, experienced heartbreak in ways that went beyond betrayal. She had recently lost Sergeant Shriver and her mother on Eunice. Her emotional base had already been shattered between 2009 and 2011. She said she felt like she had no identity once her marriage ended. "What was left of me broke my heart," she claimed, adding that she was overwhelmed within July 2011. Grief, dread, fury, and shame using the grounds of irreconcilable differences. She formally filed for divorce. However, the divorce would not be finalized until 2021 due to the protracted legal battle. 10 years later, Maria looked for solace wherever she could, even with shamans and psychics, therapy and meditation. The breakdown of the marriage wasn't only was it a personal catastrophe, but the Kennedys' decline from grace was widely reported. Maria stood at the center of the Hollywood scandal, trying to hold on to her legacy. In 2010, Arnold attempted to return to the film by showing up. 4 fans went crazy for a tiny appearance in the which was filmed in just 2 hours. In 2012's Expendables 2, seeing him alongside Stallone and Bruce Willis again evoked strong feelings of nostalgia. He appeared to be returned as his role grew, but by the time Expendables 3 rolled around, he wasn't pleased because he felt his character and the writing were lacking, was meaningless. He left the 4th movie, and his return lacked that he hoped for a punch. But it appears that viewers had moved on to the action hero of the 1980s was now in his 60s, and although his admirers held him in high regard, things had changed. After his dominance ended, Arnold saw Terminator Genesis in 2015 return to his legendary post. The goal was to revitalize the economy, and the budget was enormous, at about $155 million, the series and bring back his star power. But the US box office didn't go as expected. Only $28.7 million was spent on the office opening, After 5 days, it only made $44.2 million. That was rather low in America. The movie did better abroad, $74 million. However, it was still insufficient, making it one of the worst performers in even Arnold's well-known statement. Old but not obsolete, couldn't preserve Terminator history. Although the West had lost interest, the companies thought China would release the movie. One thing became clear from the failure. Arnold's blockbuster heyday was magical.couldn, single quotes to be replicated. But in 2003, there were even more serious problems. The Los Angeles Times released a shocking story shortly before Arnold's gubernatorial campaign. Report. Several women accused him of inappropriate behavior and touching. At the time, Arnold denied everything and said everything was made up. But by 2023, Arnold ultimately revealed the truth in the Netflix documentary series. Forget all the he adding that it was incorrect that over 15 women had come forward of both years asserting comparable experiences, some dating back 30 years. Although the past was not erased, the late apology was a potent moment of reckoning. It demonstrated how even celebrities can be made to confront the reality at some point. Additionally, there was a confession that the housekeeper was the father of the child. It allowed him to truly own what he had previously attempted to bury. Schwarzenegger made headlines once more in 2022, this time for AHH was operating a black GMC Yukon in a 4-car collision in Los Angeles when it at Sunset Boulevard. The SUV struck a red Toyota Prius and rolled on top of it. Arnold was unharmed when the Prius collided with 2 other vehicles. But Cheryl Augustine, the woman in the Prius, was not. She had brain hemorrhage and head injuries. She filed a lawsuit, accusing her lawyer of causing her permanent disability. She accused Arnold of driving recklessly and that he would not accept responsibility for despite the LAPD finding no evidence of drug or alcohol use. The collision demonstrated how 1-second driving could have long-term effects on another person, and fame doesn't shield you from civil despite everything. Arnold made an effort to maintain a close relationship with each of his 5 children. Among them is Joseph Baena, whose romance ended the marriage he created. Catherine, Christina Patrick, and Joseph made it a point to be in his life. Christopher still brings his kids from his marriage to Maria to public gatherings, and he gives them all accolades in interviews and online celebrations of milestones, accomplishments, and birthdays. Their connection fantastic. Joseph has paved his own way in the interim. He participated in Dancing with the Stars in 2022, starred in short films, and even organized the Men's Health cover, whereas a real estate agent, and has finished a triathlon. Joseph resembles his father in appearance and gait. Nevertheless, he is committed to making a reputation for himself according to his own terms. But one thing has failed to bridge the gap between Joseph and his half-siblings. In spite of Joseph, who was born 5 days apart and had the same father, has no genuine connection with Patrick, Christopher, or Catherine Christina, to which he was not invited. He appreciates their internet posts about Catherine's wedding, but they don't reply. Even though it's subtle, to them, he still represents betrayal, and to Joseph that when the situation got out of hand, he and his mother had to leave their house. When the news broke, he grew up knowing that he had been involved in something embarrassing never intended to be seen by the public. Despite Arnold's efforts to heal their emotional wounds, run deep, Joseph is the outward symbol of a secret that caused the family to fall apart. Has repeatedly stated that this is more of a political failure than any movie. His biggest regret, which he refers to as the biggest failure of his life, is a business deal. He added, "I did this and everyone suffered, so you can't hold anyone else responsible." Expressed regret to Maria, the children, and the ladies who had accused him of wrongdoing. He claims he never wants to pay the price for his attempts to improve Joseph to feel unwelcome due to his error, which might be the most truthful something Arnold has ever stated since. Despite his stardom and muscle films, his failings ultimately made him bigger than life.